We're going to begin chapter 4, and it's a relatively easy chapter 2, and the first section is super simple. So we're going to take a look today at the elements and the symbols for the elements. So let's take a look at the elements to start with. You know that there are 115 known elements. We've talked about those, and they actually named number 115 this year. 88 of those are found in nature, and others are found man-made. And you're going to have to learn the symbols of the elements. And I'm not going to make you memorize all of them. You actually are going to do it by default in your mind. You're going to use them so much you're going to know them quickly. So your book says as you've learned the 26 letters of the alphabet, you learn to read and write. By using a combination of those letters, you're going to need to learn the names and symbols of the chemical elements before you can read and write chemistry. And I don't know of anyone that's come up with an alphabet song for the elements, but I guess if you wanted to try that, I'd be interested in hearing it. This is just a table that's found in your book, and this is the mass percent of the 18 most abundant elements in the Earth's crust, oceans, and atmosphere. And I just think this is an interesting table because if you look at it, oxygen's mass percent is 49.2% of our Earth, ocean, and atmosphere by weight. And silicon is the second. And I would hope that you know by after doing all the hetero and homogeneous mixtures, and we talked about sand so much, and a couple times sand was written as silicon dioxide, that you would realize that we must have a whole lot of that on the Earth's surface, especially in the form of sand and soil. There's just some interesting numbers I thought you'd like to look at. It's in your textbook if you need to refer to it. Let's talk about terminology. So how is the term element used? It's used several different ways. I could refer to an element and could actually be meaning a single atom of the element, such as argon or hydrogen or any of the other elements off the periodic table. I could also mean molecules of an element. We're going to talk about diatomic elements, and there's some elements that are just not secure by themselves in nature, so they hang out in pairs. So I could say a molecule of hydrogen and be referring to the element hydrogen, but talking about a molecule of it, and that's how it's found in its natural state. A lot of times when we talk about the human body, we will talk about the element name that we're talking about. For example, we could say the amount of sodium you have in your body is this much. Well, we're talking about the element sodium because that's what's important for your body to function. However, that sodium is combined chemically with another element or elements to form other substances. Remember that sodium is an explosive metal. So if I take a chunk of sodium and I put it in water, it's going to explode into flames, and it's actually going to make a really basic solution that obviously we can't use in our body. And our bodies are made up of a lot of water, so if you put sodium in our body just as elemental sodium, it's going to explode, and therefore we cease to live. So if I refer to the element sodium in your body, I'm not talking about the element being by itself, but actually the element's function in your body as it's combined with other elements and other compounds. We have to look at each particular case to determine the proper use of the word element. Symbols for the elements. You know that each element has a unique 1 or 2 letter symbol. And you know that because you've looked at the periodic table before and we've talked about this. The first letter is always capitalized, the second one is not. And the symbol usually has the first 1 or 2 letters of the element's name. And here are a couple of examples. We have oxygen, and O, of course, is the first letter, or krypton, and KR is the first letter. And notice that the first letter is capitalized and the second one is lowercase. Sometimes the symbol is taken from the element's original Latin or Greek name. And in this case, gold is AU, which is aurum, and lead is PB, which is plumbum. So I know that it doesn't seem natural for lead to be PB. You'd think it would be L or LE. It's just one of those things you have to memorize. They're just different than other things. And as we go throughout, I'll give you just little things that will help you remember the actual symbols and letters. For example, I had a student one time that had trouble telling the difference between silver, which is AG, and gold, which is AU. And so, we decided gold is more expensive than silver. You'd be more upset if someone stole your gold, so you say, AU, bring back my gold. So there you go. There's one way of remembering that gold is AU. So we're going to go throughout these, and and use them over and over. And I'm going to ask you just to memorize and spit them back out because you're going to be so familiar with them, you'll know. You can always refer back to your periodic table if you need to, but it will become second nature to you as you go through this school year in chemistry class. Down through here, go to the next slide. This is the names and symbols of the most common elements that you're going to use. This is a table in your textbook. I don't mind for you using this as a reference, but like I said again, the entire periodic table is the best way to go about it. Looking at the periodic table and just getting to know where the different elements are located on the periodic table and what their symbols are. So one of the ones I gave you a hard time about in lab yesterday, or the day before, depending on when you watched the video, was the formula HCl. And I had some of you wanting to call it HCI. So we're going to look here and notice that chlorine is Cl. And I know this isn't a problem in the past, or wasn't a problem in the past. It's a problem now due to fonts, because we use so much computer technology that a lot of times the capital I just looks like that. But be diligent that you look at it and see. In chemistry, we're going to refer to I's, capital I's like this, just like you would when you learn to write in kindergarten. So like iodine is here, and you can see that with the top and bottom. So all you need to do is get more familiar with the periodic table, and that's all there is to this lecture.